Alright guys, how's it going? Welcome back. I know I say this all the time, I don't want to be the boy who cried wolf, but today I bought something very interesting. For just £1,500, I bought a Volkswagen Touareg with a 3.2 litre petrol V6. I didn't know these cars were so cheap now, so I couldn't really say no, even though, this might sound a bit weird, I'm not a massive fan of the Touareg. And on top of that, as always, I've got absolutely zero use for it, but I'm a sucker for a cheap car, especially one with a meaty engine. And I think, correct me if I'm wrong now, but I think this is the old VR6 engine, and it's a really good motor. They use the same 3.2 in the early Cayennes. If you don't know what I mean by Cayenne, and you're watching this in Essex, then of course I mean a Porsche Cayenne. Let me tell you how I came by this cheap Touareg then. The other day I got a call from Jimmy the Magician, and he said that his friend's got this Touareg for sale, 3.2 V6, it's a late 2003, it's done around 110,000 miles, and he's buying a brand new car. And he asked Jim if he knew any car traders that might be interested in it. Next thing, my phone goes, and I immediately said yes. Now, I haven't actually seen the car yet, I've bought it blind, which is probably a bit of a bad idea, but this job's all about trust, and I trust what Jimmy told me about it. Jimmy saw the car, he said it needs a couple of tyres and a bumper corner, but it presented itself quite well for a 21-year-old car. So I thought, why not? What could possibly go wrong? It's been dropped off for me on my car park, I haven't seen it yet, so I thought today I'd bring you guys along and we can have a tour of it together. Are you excited? I am. Right, I'll see you there. Well, we're here. It's metallic red, which isn't the best colour to be honest, but £1,500, I can't really complain. It's got the small wheels, which on the bright side mean it'll be quite a comfortable ride, I imagine. Looks all right. It does look like an awful lot of car for 1,500 quid, to be honest. It's from Oxfordshire originally, with its OY plate. Well, it looks all right, you know. £1,500. How is this possible? Now, I'm not a massive fan of the Touareg, as I've mentioned many times, but at that sort of money, I am quite excited. It's got its original VW plate on the front from Smith Knight Fay of Stockport. So I'm guessing this is a 2 or 3 owner car. No xenons, but it has got front fogs. We've got leather. I don't really know much about the spec on these, but it does look all right. The bodywork looks okay. Jimmy mentioned something about a bumper corner, but I can't see it. As always then, let's check this out using Car Vertical. So, this is really easy to do. All you do is go to carvertical.com, type in the vehicle reg or the VIN. In this case, we know it is Oscar Yankee 53 Mike Kilo Zulu. Check vehicle. It's really important that you do one of these checks before you hand over any cash for a used car or motorbike. It'll tell us whether it's ever been stolen, written off, had a mileage rollback, or has outstanding finance on it. And this isn't just a UK thing, it checks database in 35 countries. It also sometimes shows you service history, it shows you all the MOT history as well, and if it has been involved in an accident, sometimes there are photographs of the crash damage. Also, if it's been advertised previously, sometimes it shows photographs of that previous advert, so you can see the condition and all that sort of stuff. It's really useful. Right, and the report's ready. By the way, if you want to do one of these checks for yourself, don't forget to use my promo code HIGHPEAK for 20% off each and every check that you do. Alternatively, click the link below in the video description. But that is HIGHPEAK for 20% off. Right, view report. This is a Volkswagen Touareg from 2003, petrol. It's never been clocked, there's no outstanding finance, and there's no recorded damage. That's good. It's never been stolen. Perfect. The last known mileage was 109,000, and that was in September last year. 104 the year before that, 99, so, I mean, that's quite low mileage, isn't it, for a 21-year-old car? Right. The average market price for such a vehicle is £2,851. I figured, to be honest, this was kind of a, depending on the spend, of course, kind of a double your money car. That, I think, is a £3 car. But I need to make sure that I don't spend more than £500 on it, otherwise this isn't worth messing around with, is it, really? On the bright side, it's low tax, it's low road tax, it's only £395 a year, not £695. According to this, it's a 6-speed automatic, all-wheel drive. Right, ownership changed in 05. It's had a couple of plates. Very good, very good. Let's go down to the most recent MOT then. Ah, that's interesting. So that plate changed back, so it must have had one owner for about 10 years. That's a good sign. Or longer actually, 15 years. Right, it failed its MOT in September, and then it passed. And then it changed ownership again. Right, fair enough. I suspect that's been done by accident, somebody not knowing which part of the V5 to fill in, because that doesn't make any sense. Right, well that's all good then so far, isn't it? Just go and have a look around it, see what sort of toys it's got inside. Okay then, right. So we've got 2 keys, 1 and 2. Oh, bugger, just dropped one. But in typical VW fashion, the little silver hook thing has snapped off. So I can reshell that, that's not a big deal. So we can do that. There we go, the remote locking works, it's a good sign. Now, that rear tyre looks a little bit soft to me, and it's a land sale, look at that. I mean, for 1,500 quid, I can't really knock it, can I? But that does look a bit low. There's the, can you see that? There's the little wear marker there, look. So there's only a couple of mil left on that one. But the bodywork looks all right. V6 badge. Oh, we've got matching plates. So they're the original plates. It's got rear parking sensors, no privacy. Actually not a bad spec, is it really? Quite a classy colour combination. I wouldn't have chosen it, to be honest, but it does look all right. Up front then we've got, I think this one's a set of tyres really, because that's quite low as well. Where's the wear marker? Yeah, there. That's right on the limit, that. So we're into 2 tyres, but with it being 4-wheel drive, you need to match them up on each axle. Otherwise you can have 4-wheel drive issues. Looks quite tidy though, that, doesn't it? Headlamps could do with a buff. The bonnet isn't all chippy, although it's hard to tell in this weather. That looks all right. Moving round to this tyre then. That is the same. It's all sort of cracked on the side wall there, and it's low. I mean, a set of tyres on this, you're talking 800 quid maybe. A few little scratches on the door there, but they would improve with a buff, I think. And then round here we've got a matching land sale that's, yeah, right on the limit again. So I think we're into 4 tyres here. What I could do, because of its value, I don't like doing this, but I could go to the local tyre place and try and get a decent set of part warns. Plane's loud, isn't it? I don't like the idea of part warns, but I don't really want to spend £1,000 on tyres on, you know, something of this value. It's not really worth doing, is it? Let's have a look inside then. No, it's auto locked on me. That key is dead to the world. It is the right key for the car though. Put that in my pocket. This one works, the broken one. There we go. So we've got full leather interior. Smells of cigarettes. And this is typical VW this era. All the black paints, well, all the black plastics have worn. Everywhere you look. Just looks messy, doesn't it? I know you can get these refurbished, but again, it's not really worth the hassle, is it? We've got a steering wheel there off a Bentley Continental. It's exactly the same. It is quite nice though, this. It's quite nice condition. Bit of mould on the seat belts where it's been parked up and not been used, I imagine. Don't know why they've been fastened. You know what? They were probably fastened for its MOT in September and nobody's sat here since. I suspect that's what's happened. Let's have a look in the boot then. How do you get in a boot on a Touareg? There we go. Stinks of cigarettes. What a rancid smell. No water in the wheel well there, that's a good sign. Full toolkit, all that sort of stuff. That's all good then. Got some stickers here from Smith Knight Fay when it had done 6,000, oh no, that's the code, isn't it? 2005 recall. Some sort of recall for something. Don't know what. Let's have a look under the engine then. Like I say, I think this is the VR6 engine, I assume it is. But I don't know. I know paint codes, I just don't know engine codes. We could do with some new struts. They do work, but they are struggling a little bit. With a little gust of wind, that's... Oh no, they're alright. They're alright, right. Well, there is the old meaty V6. Everything's covered in plastic, so I can't really see an awful lot. But we know it has an engine at least. So my investment is looking safe. Oh, does it? Oh yeah, we've got heated seats. There we go, perfect. Now you start it there for some reason. Capital, the wanted, no thank you. I do quite like the chunky gear lever on these. Everything's quite chunky. Look at the size of the switches, for example. Let's start this up then. I'm expecting an engine light on and an EPC light on. Typical VW fashion. But we're all right, I think. It's done 110,000 miles. We've got no warning lights on at all. Even the dash isn't all pixelated. You'd expect it to be, wouldn't you? Got plenty of fuel in it. Sounds quite good. Sounds nice, actually. Very good. Let's get these seats on. Put that one on as well, just to a bit of ambient heat. We've got about 11 pence there, so that's good news. That's broken. Right, well that's fine. Everything's just worn, I mean, as you'd expect, really. Oh yeah, I'd forgotten about that. It's got like a cup holder thing, or a big gulp, or a flask holder. Under here we've got, still works. I am surprised. What else can I show you then? Let's crank this heat up, I think. It's freezing today. Freezing. In the glove compartment we've got a nice ice scraper. Clear off before you set off. Safer roads for Greater Manchester. Why does everything preach to you these days? Everything's got a message, hasn't it? We've got some Trebor dry mints. I detest those, to be honest. Like sucking on cement. Okay, do my windows work? 1, 2, 3, 4. Perfect. We've got these paddles here to change gear, just like a Bentley Continental. Let's look at the service history then. So you'd have thought this is quite a valuable car, this, when it was new, or it would have been. So the service history should be pretty good, I imagine, for the first probably 15 years until somebody lost interest with it. That's all its spec, by the way. Now there is a website where you can type all that in if you've got plenty of time on your hands, and it'll show you the spec. It's a change of an engine, this, I think. So hang on, let me turn that away so you don't see anybody's name or address. Oh, it's a Sport. It's a Touareg 3.6 V6 Sport. This is weird then. It must have been a pre-reg because it was sold by Smith Knight Fay at Green Lane, Stockport, the VW dealer, in September 03. 5th of September 03. But, right, it was a Volkswagen pre-reg, hence the Oxfordshire plate. That makes sense. Let's look at the history then. Service records. Right, there's some here. There is some. We've got one here at VW at 2,000 miles. That's in 2005. Oh, 12,000 miles, 2005. Then 2007, 25,000 miles. It had a dust and pollen filter. Then again in 2010 at 46. That's quite a long interval, isn't it? 20,000 miles. I wouldn't have left it that long. We're now in 2024. So that's 2011 at 53. Right. Then they haven't stamped the book here, but it has had a service, I suspect, in September 22. And then they've given them this sort of service sticker reminder thing, and that's it. Some recalls carried out. It always confuses me with cars like this. Why don't people look after them? You know, this is quite an expensive, valuable car, and then somebody just doesn't bother changing the oil. It doesn't make any sense to me. There are no goodies to be found here either, which is always a bit disappointing. We've got the lock and wheel nut there. Pop that down there, I think. That's all I can tell you, really. I suppose the next step is to get it out on the road and see how it drives. Should we do that? Let's. Okay then, right. First time in the Touareg. It's got a manual handbrake like an old Mercedes. Well, that engine sounds sweet though. Feels quite pokey as well. This will be, I imagine, 240 horsepower. This sort of era, you know, with a V6, they all were that kind of figure. Does feel quite responsive though. Quite pokey, got a bit of poke. How do we turn my wipers off? Nope, they sound loose. Nice Germanic quality there. I quite like the driving position of this. You sit up nice and high, king of the road. The seats feel nice and soft and luxurious. My heated seats are getting nice and warm. Does it have a heated steering wheel? What do those buttons do? Does it have a heated wheel like a Bentley or not? Where would you be? I'm going to say not then. No. Anyway. Should we sting it? She flies. For the money, this is quite a nice car, really. Apart from its ball tyres and its noisy wipers. And its freezing steering wheel. That isn't the car's fault, though, I suppose, is it? It's just me being nesh. Well, it is quite a good spec as well. We've got electric seats. A few years ago, I'd have loved this. What should we do with it then? Because like I say, I've bought this and I've got no purpose for it whatsoever. But there's still a little bit of life left in it, isn't there? Where should we go with it? We could take it on a road trip, couldn't we, to meet some genuine Touareg people in North Africa. You let me go? Nope. Cheers, thank you. Oh yeah. I love a V6. They sound wicked. This is way quicker and sounds way better than you'd expect a Touareg to sound. They also did a 4.2 litre V8 and also a V12 diesel. Not V12, V10 diesel. V10 diesel. Most people went for the boring 2.5 diesel though, and later the 3 litre diesel, which were alright, but I'd always rather have petrol than diesel, to be honest. Well, it's getting up to temperature fine, as am I. Stereo works, that's all good. What else can I try? That's about it, isn't it, really? As an MOT till September, so I don't really, strictly speaking, need to do one, do I? We're only in March. What I'd like to do, though, because I'm not sure about the service history, is give it a full service, change the spark plugs, the whole lot. Get it up on a ramp and see how rotten it is underneath. I suspect not very. These weren't famous for being rotten. But yeah, the biggest thing really is tyres. What I should do really is head down to somewhere like Tyre Zone in Portwood, who I've used many, many times over the years. See if they've got see if they can do me a deal. Maybe some decent part warns or something. It does feel quite solid over the bumps. It's not all loose and sloppy. I should probably service the gearbox as well, but where do you start and stop with something like this? What am I going to do with this car? Where do I take it? What's the point? I think that's going to be my first stop. I'm going to go to Tyre Zone in Portwood, see what sort of deal they'll do me. Then I think once that's done, I need to run it to my mechanics, get them to check it over, give it a full service, maybe give it a clean MOT then, so we've got 12 months. And then I don't know what. What do I do with it then? I've mentioned this to you many times before, but I always buy a car and then try and imagine a scenario for it, you know, and try and keep hold of it. But I'm running out of scenarios. Anyway, let's go down to Tyre Zone and sort these tyres out, shall we? Vamos. I can't imagine this being great on fuel, actually. Let's see. Let me go through this menu. We've got a quarter of a tank and it's telling me I've got 125 miles to empty. Don't know what that means. How do we go back? Ah, there we go, right. My current MPG is 25. That's an instantaneous one, that's not very accurate, is it? Let me reset my MPG thing, because I imagine this old 3.2 V6 in what's quite a heavy car will be doing about 20 average, won't it? Currently, as I'm rolling downhill, it's doing 60. It's quite impressive, isn't it? Straight away, I like this more than I thought I was going to, and I think that's just down to the price. In my mind, the fact that it's cheap just makes me like it. I don't know why. Probably because I'm weird. I've got the MPG up to 101. So, if we can just keep going downhill forever without using the accelerator, this would be quite a cheap car to run, wouldn't it? There was a bit of a clunk there. Don't know where that came from. Oy. I know this isn't relevant to this video, guys, but over there is my 2007 BMW X5. And that's very good on fuel at the moment because it's broken. Hasn't turned a wheel in about 2 weeks. Anyway, right, let's head to the tyre place. Let's get on our way, shall we? And we're back in the cheap VW Touareg. I've been away for a few days, so I can't quite remember where we were up to. I think before I went away, oh yeah, that's right, my brother went down to Tyre Zone over in Portwood in Stockport and got 4 decent part-worn tyres. I'm not a big fan of that, to be honest, but it was the only way that I could keep this within budget. So we've got a pair of decent Goodyears on the front, and we've got a pair of decent Continentals on the back. And I'm stuck here in the middle with you. Sorry, more dad jokes there. Then while I was away, he picked it up from there and took it down to my mechanics, and I left it for a full service and check over. So it's had new spark plugs, new filters, all that sort of stuff. I didn't bother with a fresh MOT because it's got quite a long one on it already, so I thought, well, that'll do. I've just got it back to work now after a mini valet, which cost me £15, and photographed it, and I've got it advertised for £2,495, which is an awful lot of car for the money, isn't it? We have this package with Auto Trader where, because we pay so much for the advertising in the first place, they let us have unlimited cars under 2,495 or under 2.5 grand. So we're fully stocked up at the moment, so this one at 2,495 is a free ad. Sounds really good, actually. Get over, clown. I think this really benefited from its fresh service. Feels way more responsive. Driving it like that, of course, won't help with its fuel consumption, which is poor, to say the least. It isn't all good news, though, because my mechanic found quite a few things wrong with it. Nothing major, but I could have massively overspent had I corrected them all, and I haven't done. So what I'm going to do with you now is park up somewhere scenic, and it's a nice beautiful day. Not quite as nice as where I was yesterday, but nevertheless it's all right. And I'll talk you through exactly what my mechanic found. Now, I've listed all these points in the advert just for full transparency. I don't want anyone accusing me of ripping them off, but yeah, I think for 2.5 grand someone's going to get a fairly decent car. It sort of drives like an old ML, this. It's quite crashy. Feels like an old-fashioned 4x4. There are lots of little rattles and knocks and vibrations. I suppose that's to be expected, isn't it, for something of this age? My aircon works, though. Oh yes, the old VR6. Right, well, here we'll do then. Lovely, right in the mud after having it cleaned. Now, if you remember, whack it in park. If you remember, I paid £1,500 for this car, so 1,500. The tyres cost me 250, which I didn't think was too bad because they've got plenty of tread left on them. Now, oh, we've got £15 for a mini valet. Don't forget that. Now, my mechanic did a check over. Oil filter, £8.50. Air filter, £12.99. Pollen filter, £14.12. Spark plugs, £65.80. Oil, £55.93. And labour, £100. So my total is £308.81, which means this car currently owes me £2,073. So if I can sell it as it is for 2.5 grand, there's a few £100 profit. So it isn't the end of the world. But let me just go through this list with you. VW, oh, they've called it a tow rag. VW Touareg, near side front bottom arm, rear bush loose, inner offside front play in the rack end, front pads are low, front discs worn, rear pads low, rear discs worn, rear anti-roll bar D-bushes worn, water leak from housing at rear of engine, gearbox leak from oil pan, and front flexi perished. And that's it. So it isn't the end of the world, that, but if I wanted this to pass an MOT with no advisory items, you'd be talking, off the top of my head, I don't know, hundreds of pounds are there. Hundreds of pounds. And I couldn't ask any more for this car. If I did all those things, it's not like I could put it up at 4 grand because nobody would give me that for it. So I think the best thing to do is keep it cheap and just try and sell it to somebody that knows they're buying a 22-year-old car, basically. Somebody that's going to use it, perhaps out there. That's my plan anyway. We shall see. So, I think that's about it, guys. As always, testing its 4-wheel drive ability there, aren't I? As always, guys, thank you once again for watching. Make sure you give the video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Make sure you subscribe if you haven't done already. You can follow me on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. I'll leave the link below. There you go. And TikTok. Let's not forget TikTok. See you next time. Cheers, guys. Adios.